It has probably happened to you. You're in the middle of an ordinary day, nothing is wrong. You're somewhere familiar, your kitchen, a street you've walked 1,000 times, a room you know by heart. And then, without warning, for no reason at all, something shifts. The world doesn't change, not one object moves, and yet suddenly everything feels strange, slightly unreal, as if you'd stepped half an inch outside your own life, and were looking at it from a place just beside yourself. The familiar room feels like a stage set, your own hands look borrowed, and a quiet, vertiginous question rises up from nowhere. Wait, what is all this? What does it mean that any of this is here at all? That I'm here at all? And then usually within a few seconds it passes. The world snaps back to normal. You go on with your day, and you don't tell anyone because how would you even say it? It sounds like nothing. It sounds like everything. I want to talk about that tonight. That small, strange, almost universal experience. The moment when reality briefly stops feeling ordinary and starts feeling instead like the most improbable thing that has ever happened. I'm not talking about anything wrong with you. I want to be clear about that from the start. This isn't about illness or anxiety or anything broken. It's an experience that psychologically healthy people have throughout their lives, quietly, privately, usually without ever mentioning it. And it's one of the strangest and most overlooked features of being a conscious creature. And here's what I've come to believe about it, after years of turning it over. That little flicker of unreality isn't a malfunction. It might be the opposite. It might be one of the few moments when you see something true, something that's there all the time, that you're built to ignore, and that slips into view for just a second before the machinery of normal life closes back over it. Because the strange thing, when you really examine it, isn't the moment reality feels unreal. The strange thing is all the other moments, the ordinary ones, when it feels perfectly, unquestionably real, and you never once wonder how that feeling of realness is being produced, or why, or by what. The unreality is the glitch that reveals the machine, and once you've seen the machine, you can never quite unsee it. So let me follow this with you tonight, slowly, the way you'd approach something you don't want to startle. It starts as a question about a strange passing mood, and it doesn't stay there. It opens, the way these things always seem to, into the deepest questions there are, into how you perceive anything at all, into what makes the waking world feel more real than a dream, into the bare, astonishing fact that there's anyone here to find any of it real or unreal in the first place. But we'll get there slowly. Let's begin with the moment itself, the one you already know. Let me describe it more closely and see how many versions you recognize, because it wears a lot of different costumes, this experience, and you may have had several without realizing they were the same thing underneath. There's the version that happens in a completely familiar place. You're in your own home, a room you've spent years in, and you look up, and for a moment, it's as though you've never seen it before. Everything is exactly where it should be. You know what every object is, and yet it all feels foreign, staged, slightly off, like a replica of your room rather than your room. A kind of jamais vu, the opposite of déjà vu, where instead of the new feeling familiar, the deeply familiar suddenly feels new and strange. There's the version that happens with your own face. You're brushing your teeth or just passing a mirror, and you stop and you look at the face looking back, and a strange question surfaces. Is that me? That specific arrangement of features, that particular face, the one you've worn your whole life. For a moment it doesn't feel like you at all. It feels like a mask, like looking at a stranger who happens to move when you move. People report this with mirrors especially. Stare a little too long, and the face begins to come loose from the sense of being you, until you're looking at it the way you'd look at anyone's face, from the outside, as an object, oddly disconnected from the one doing the looking. There's the version that happens with a word. You say an ordinary word, your own name even, over and over, and it dissolves. It stops being a word and becomes pure sound, strange and arbitrary, and you can't believe this collection of noises is supposed to mean anything, let alone mean you. The meaning drains out of it and leaves the bare, absurd sound behind. And for a moment, you glimpse how much invisible machinery is normally running underneath, how much your mind is constantly supplying, automatically, to make a sound into a meaning, a face into a person, a room into your room. And there's the deepest version, the one this whole film is really about. It doesn't need a mirror, or a word, or even a particular place. It's the moment when you suddenly become aware, not of anything in the world, but of the bare fact that you exist at all, that you're here, that there's a whole world happening, and a you that it's happening to. It tends to arrive unbidden, in the most ordinary moments, washing a dish, waiting at a light, and it lands like a quiet shock. I'm here. Any of this is here. Why, how? And the ordinary day you are having tilts, just slightly, into something vast and strange, before it rights itself and lets you go back to whatever you were doing. Maybe you know that one. Most people do, even if they've never had words for it. It's not frightening exactly, or it doesn't have to be. It's more like vertigo, a sudden awareness of a depth that's normally hidden, as if you'd been walking on what you thought was solid ground your whole life, and for just a second, glanced down and seen that it was a thin, bright surface stretched over something unfathomable. And here's the first thing I want you to notice about all of these, because it's the clue that everything else follows from. In every single one of them, nothing in the world actually changed. The room was the same room. The face was the same face. The word was the same word. You were the same you. Nothing out there shifted at all. What changed was something on the inside. The feeling of reality, the sense of the ordinary and the real, briefly switched off, and you saw the same world without it. Which means, and sit with this because it's strange, the feeling of reality is something separate from reality itself. It's a feeling, a sense your mind normally adds to everything, automatically, like a coat of varnish, so that the world feels solid and real and unremarkable. And in these moments, the varnish thins, just for a second, and you see the world without it. The world is still there, but the realness and the thing that normally makes it feel ordinary and unquestionable, that flickered, which tells you it was being produced, added, generated by you, all along, on everything, without your ever knowing. That's the thread I want to pull tonight, because if the feeling of reality is something your mind produces, if this is real and ordinary, is a sensation being painted onto your experience rather than a simple fact about the world, then the obvious next question is, how? How does your mind make the world feel real? What is it doing every second of every ordinary day to keep the varnish on? And what is it that slips in those strange moments to let it briefly off? To answer that, we have to look at something most people never think about at all. We have to look at how you perceive anything in the first place. Because the truth about perception is far stranger than the unreality moments. And once you understand it, those moments stop seeming like glitches and start seeming like the rare times you see clearly. Here is a fact that sounds, at first, like wordplay, but isn't. And once it lands, it changes everything. You have never, in your entire life, experienced the world directly. Not once, not for a single instant. Everything you have ever seen, heard, touched, tasted, every experience you've ever had of the outside world has reached you only as a reconstruction, built inside your own head, out of signals. You are not in contact with reality. You are in contact with your brain's model of reality, and the two are not the same thing. Let me make that concrete, because it's easy to say and hard to actually feel. Think about seeing. It feels like the most direct thing in the world. You open your eyes and the world is just there, in full colour, right in front of you. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that particles of light are striking the back of your eyes, getting converted into electrical signals, and those signals are travelling into the dark, sealed vault of your skull, where your brain, which has never itself seen anything, which sits in absolute darkness and silence, takes those signals and builds, from scratch, the experience of a bright, coloured, three-dimensional world. The colour you see isn't out there. Out there is just light of different wavelengths, no colour at all. The colour is manufactured inside you by your brain. The same is true of sound. Out there is only air, vibrating. The richness of music, the warmth of a voice, all of that is built inside the silent dark of your head from nothing but pressure waves. You live your entire life inside a rendering, a model your brain constructs, and you never, ever step outside it to compare it to the real thing. You can't. The rendering is all you've ever had. And here's the part that genuinely turns the world strange. The part that took me a long time to actually absorb rather than just know. Your brain is not building this model passively, like a camera faithfully recording what's in front of it. It's doing something far more active and far stranger. It's guessing. It's predicting. Your brain is, in a sense, constantly generating its best guess about what's out there, a kind of controlled hallucination, and then using the incoming signals from your senses mostly to check and correct that guess. Let me say that again, because it's the hinge of everything. You don't see the world and then understand it. Your brain predicts the world, generates a model of what it expects to be there, and then the senses come in as a kind of error correction, nudging the prediction where it's wrong. Most of what you're experiencing right now in this moment is not coming from the outside. It's coming from the inside, from your brain's predictions, its expectations, its model, with the actual sensory information playing a smaller role than you'd ever guess. You are, in a real and literal sense, experiencing your brain's expectation of the world, lightly corrected by reality. Once you know this, a lot of strange things make sense. It's why you can read a sentence with a missing word and not notice. Your brain predicted the word and put it there for you. It's why the world doesn't go black when you blink. Why you don't see the blind spot that's actually in each of your eyes. Why a familiar room seems fully detailed even though you're only ever looking at a tiny patch of it at a time. Your brain is filling all of it in, constantly, from the model, painting in the world you expect, faster than you can ever catch it doing so. The seamless, complete, solid world you experience is, to a startling degree, a construction, a prediction, a dream that happens to be tightly tethered to reality. You can catch the prediction machine at work if you know where to look. Think of the times you've heard your phone buzz in your pocket, clearly, unmistakably, and pulled it out to find nothing there. Your brain predicted the buzz and delivered the full sensation of it, no signal required. Or the way a word you just learned suddenly seems to appear everywhere. Your model updated, and now it's predicting that word into your attention. Or how, when you're expecting someone, you keep half seeing them in strangers on the street. The prediction running ahead of the data, painting their face onto the wrong body for a half second before reality corrects it. These aren't errors exactly. They're the normal machinery, briefly showing its hand. The prediction came first, the world arrived second, and when they didn't quite match, you got a glimpse of how much of your experience was being generated from the inside all along. And here's the implication that genuinely reorders things once you sit with it. It means that what you expect to perceive shapes what you actually do perceive. That perception is, in part, a kind of self-fulfilling guess. Two people can stand on the same street and, in a real sense, see different streets because they're bringing different models to it, predicting different things, noticing what their expectations prime them to notice. We tend to think we all receive the same raw reality and simply interpret it differently. But it goes deeper than interpretation. The construction happens before the experience even arrives in awareness. By the time you consciously see the world, your brain has already built it. You never get the raw version, you only ever get the finished painting. And you're the painter, though you never feel your own hand moving. And now, come back to those moments of unreality and watch them transform. Because if your sense of a normal, solid, real world depends on your brain's predictions matching smoothly with what comes in, then the moments when reality feels strange might be exactly the moments when that smooth matching briefly falters, when the prediction and the correction fall slightly out of sync, when, for whatever reason, tiredness, a trick of attention, staring too long, a quiet mind, the machinery that normally hides itself becomes, for a second, slightly visible. That's what the unreality moment might actually be, not a malfunction, a momentary glimpse of the construction process itself, the seams of the rendering, normally invisible, flickering into view. In that moment, you're not seeing the world wrongly. You're seeing, for once, that the world you experience is built, and the strangeness you feel is the strangeness of catching your own mind in the act of making reality. I find that genuinely humbling and a little vertiginous every time I sit with it. We walk around feeling like we're in immediate, direct contact with a solid world that's simply, obviously, there. And the truth is that we're each sealed inside a rendering, generated in the dark, from guesses that we never get to step outside of. The realness of the world is a feeling the rendering includes, a tag the brain attaches that says this is really out there. Trust it, don't question it. Usually that tag is on, and the world feels solid and ordinary, and in the strange moments, the tag flickers off, and you see the same rendering without the label that says it's real, and it feels accurately like a construction, because it is one, it always was. But this opens a question that's even stranger, and that the science of perception can't quite reach. Because if the waking world is a construction, a model, a controlled hallucination tethered to reality, then there's another, very familiar place, where your brain builds a complete world from the inside and tags it as real and convinces you utterly. A place where the rendering runs free, with no correction from outside at all. You go there every night, and while you're there, it feels exactly as real as this does right now. We have to talk about dreams, because dreams hold the key to the whole mystery of what real even means. While you're dreaming, the dream is completely real to you. Think about how total that is. In a dream, you don't think you're somewhere real. You simply are somewhere, with no doubt at all. The most impossible things happen, and you accept them without blinking. The dead are alive, and you're not surprised. The geography is impossible, and you navigate it anyway. And crucially, you feel that it's real. The dream comes with exactly the same "this is real" tag that the waking world comes with. While you're inside it, it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like reality. It feels like this. That should stop us because of what it implies. The feeling of reality, that sense of solid, unquestionable there-ness we were just talking about, is not unique to the real world. Your mind can produce it for a world that doesn't exist at all. Every night, it builds a world from nothing, with no input from outside, and stamps it with the full feeling of being real, and you believe it completely. The realness tag gets attached to pure fiction, and you can't tell the difference from the inside. And this raises the question that I think sits at the very center of tonight. If a dream can feel completely real while you're in it, then what exactly makes the waking world feel real? What's the actual difference from the inside between this and a dream? It's a harder question than it first appears, because you can't answer, well, the waking world is real and the dream isn't. That's true, but it's not the question. The question is about the feeling, from the inside, in the moment. And in the moment, in the dream, the feeling is identical. You have no reliable internal signal that says this one is the real one. You only ever discover the dream was a dream afterward, on waking, never during, which means that right now, the feeling of reality you have, the absolute certainty that this is real and solid and actually happening, that exact feeling is one your mind is fully capable of generating for something that isn't real at all. You've experienced it doing exactly that thousands of times every night of your life. Now, I have to be careful here, because this is the precise spot where it would be easy to tip into something I don't believe and can't support. I am not going to tell you that the waking world is a dream, or that none of this is real, or that you can't trust your senses about anything. I don't believe that. The waking world is real. It behaves with a consistency dreams never have. It's shared with billions of other people. It pushes back reliably in ways a dream doesn't. You wake up from a dream, but you don't wake up from waking life. There are real differences and they matter, and I'm not waving them away. But here's the gentler, stranger, truer thing the dream reveals. The feeling of reality is not proof of reality. It's a sensation your mind produces, and it can produce it for things that aren't real, which means that the solid, unquestionable realness of your waking world, the thing that makes an ordinary day feel ordinary, is, at least in part, something you're bringing to the world, not simply finding in it. The same way your brain paints in colour and fills in the blind spot, it paints on realness. Usually, it paints it on the real world, where it belongs. In dreams, it paints it on fiction. And in those strange waking moments of unreality, it briefly stops painting it at all. And you see the world stripped of the one feeling that normally makes it feel like home. Do you see how the pieces are starting to fit? The unreality moment, the constructed nature of perception, the dream that feels real? They're all the same revelation, approached from three directions. They're all telling you that the realness of your world is produced, not given. That you live inside a rendering your mind builds and tags as real. That the tag can be misapplied in dreams or briefly removed in those strange flickers. And that the rest of the time, it's simply on, silent and invisible, making the most extraordinary thing imaginable. A whole world appearing out of nothing inside your head, feel as ordinary as a Tuesday. And there's a quiet implication here that connects to something many people feel but rarely say. If your mind builds a complete, convincing, fully real feeling world every night, then in a single, ordinary lifetime, you have lived through thousands of these other worlds. Whole landscapes, whole reunions, whole stretches of experience that felt completely real while they lasted and then dissolved without a trace. Your one life already quietly contains far more than the single waking world it seems to. There's more lived experience in you than your waking biography could ever account for. Most of it gone by morning, all of it generated by the same mind that's rendering this room around you right now. So the waking world is a rendering, and the dream is a rendering, and the feeling of real is a tag your mind attaches to whichever one it's currently running. Which brings us, inevitably, to the strangest fact in all of this, the one we keep circling and haven't yet landed on. Because all of this rendering, all of this world building, all of this tagging as real, it's all happening to someone. There's a someone inside it all, for whom the rendering appears, the one who has the unreality moments, the one who's there in the dream and there in the waking world, the one, in fact, who is here right now. And the strangest experience of all isn't the world feeling unreal, it's that one, the experiencer, suddenly noticing itself. Let me take you into the heart of it. There's a particular moment I want to try to describe, even though it sits right at the edge of what words can hold. Because I think it's the deepest version of everything we've been talking about, and almost everyone has brushed against it, and almost no one ever speaks of it. It's the moment you suddenly notice that you exist. Not that you exist as a person with a name and a history. That's ordinary. That's just self-awareness. I mean something more basic and more staggering. The moment you notice the bare fact of there being any experience at all. That there is something it is like to be you. That the lights are on. That instead of nothing, instead of darkness, instead of no one home, instead of the universe simply grinding along unwitnessed, there is this, a whole world showing up to someone right now. It tends to arrive when it arrives with a quality of shock, a quiet, breathtaking astonishment. You might be doing nothing at all. Looking at your own hand, maybe, and suddenly the hand becomes incomprehensible, not as an object, but as something you are somehow inhabiting, animating, experiencing from the inside. Or you catch the bare fact of your own awareness, the way you might suddenly hear the silence in a room, and you think, I'm here, I'm actually here. There's a me, and it's having all of this, and it has been the whole time, and I almost never notice. How is that not the most astonishing fact there could possibly be? I have these, and I've never gotten used to them. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of the most ordinary day, and it'll just land on me, out of nowhere. The sheer improbable fact that any of this is happening at all. That there's a world, and that I'm somehow inside it, experiencing it. From this one particular point, behind these particular eyes. And for a moment the ordinariness falls away completely, and I'm just astonished at the world, at being in it, at the fact that being in it is even a thing that can happen. And then it passes, and the day closes back over it, and I'm just a person doing a thing again. But the astonishment was the truer state, I think. The ordinariness is the illusion. The astonishment is me seeing the situation clearly for a second. And here is the thing I most want to point at in this whole film. The fact that I think is hiding underneath every unreality moment you've ever had. Consider this. Every single experience you've ever had, every memory, every dream, every joy, every grief, every face you've ever loved, every ordinary afternoon, all of it, the entire contents of your life, from the very beginning until this exact second, every bit of it has arrived through one single point of view, one perspective, one continuous, unbroken vantage point, looking out, that has been there for all of it and has never once moved. You have never experienced reality from outside yourself. Not once, not for a fraction of a second. You have never seen the world from anywhere but here, from behind these eyes, from inside this one perspective. Your entire existence, the whole of it, everything that has ever happened to you, has unfolded from a single mysterious point that you cannot get behind, cannot step outside of, cannot ever escape or examine from the outside. The whole universe for you has only ever appeared in one place. Here, where you are, where you've always been. And the strange thing, the thing that connects this to the unreality moments and to the whole mystery, is how completely we take this for granted. This is the most extraordinary fact of your existence, and you almost never notice it. That there is a point of view in the universe that is yours. That the cosmos, for all its vastness, has at least this one window in it, this one place where it's all being seen from the inside, by you. You've been looking out through this same window your entire life. The world beyond it has changed completely. Your body has changed, your beliefs have changed, the whole cast of your life has turned over. But the window, the bare point of view, the here from which it's all arrived, that has stayed exactly where it always was. Awareness keeps arriving from the same mysterious place it always has. And consider how it sits inside the sheer scale of things, because this is where the astonishment becomes almost too large to hold. The universe is unimaginably old and unimaginably vast, billions of years, billions of galaxies, an immensity of space and time in which, for almost all of it, in almost all of it, there is no one home, no window, no point of view, just matter and energy and the dark, grinding on, unwitnessed. And then here, for a flicker of that immensity, a handful of decades on one small world, there's this. There's you, a place where the universe opened an eye and began, improbably, to look at itself from the inside. You don't have to make any grand claim about that to feel its weight. Just a small, careful version is enough. From your perspective, at least, the universe has become something that can be experienced from the inside. That's a stretch of matter and energy, in your case, somehow turned into a point of view, into a here, a someone, a window the world arrives through. The window isn't incidental to you. It might be the most extraordinary thing about being alive at all. And it will close. That's part of what gives the unreality moments their particular weight, I think, even when we can't name it. Some part of us knows that this window, this single point of view we've looked out from our whole lives, that has felt so permanent, so much like the fixed center of everything, is temporary, that there was a vast darkness before it opened, and there will be again. And maybe that's why, when the veil thins and we suddenly feel the strangeness of being here, it arrives with that particular mix of wonder and unease. Because we're brushing, in those moments, against both halves of the miracle at once. That there is a window at all, and that it won't always be open. I don't say that to sadden you, the opposite. It's the temporariness that makes the looking out precious, that makes this ordinary evening, seen through this one irreplaceable perspective, something closer to a marvel than a given. Maybe you've felt this, the strange continuity of the viewpoint. You look out at the world today, and it is, in its basic structure, the same looking out you did as a child. Same vantage, same here. The scenery beyond the window is unrecognizable from what it was, but the window itself, the perspective, the place it all arrives, feels untouched by all that change. As if everything in your life has moved, except the one point from which you've watched it move. And when you put that together with everything we've said, that the world is a rendering, that realness is a tag your mind applies, that even the waking world only ever reaches you as a construction inside your head, you arrive at the thought that I think these unreality moments are really about underneath. They're moments when you catch the whole setup, when you glimpse all at once that there's a world being rendered and a single point of view it's being rendered for, and a bare astonishing fact of experience happening at all, and that all of it, the whole arrangement, is utterly mysterious, and you've simply been ignoring it in order to get on with your day. The unreality isn't the world going wrong. It's you for a second seeing the actual situation you're in, which is genuinely, permanently, breathtakingly strange. So the question becomes, what is this? What is this point of view, this experiencing, this bare fact of there being someone home? Science has a great deal to say about how the rendering gets built. Let me show you where that takes us, and exactly where it stops. The science here is genuinely impressive, and I don't want to undersell it, because the temptation in conversations like this is to wave science away as if it had nothing to offer. It has a great deal to offer. It's just that what it offers, when you follow it all the way, leads to a cliff edge, and the view from that edge is the whole point. We've already touched the central idea, the one that's reshaped how scientists think about perception in recent decades, that the brain is fundamentally a prediction machine. The picture that's emerged is that your brain is not sitting passively waiting for the world to stamp itself onto your senses. It's constantly running a model, a rich, detailed, generated model of the world and of your body and of you, and using that model to predict what's about to happen, what it's about to sense a fraction of a second before the signals even arrive. Perception, on this view, is the brain's prediction meeting the incoming data and settling on a best guess. What you experience is that best guess. The world you see is, in a real sense, your brain's hypothesis about the world, continuously tested against reality and updated. Some researchers put it in a phrase that sounds dramatic but is meant quite literally, that what we call normal perception is a kind of controlled hallucination. A hallucination because it's generated from the inside by the brain as an active construction, controlled because it's reined in, corrected, kept tethered by the steady stream of information coming from the real world through the senses. Take away the control, the sensory tethering, and you get ordinary hallucination or dreaming. Keep the control tight and you get the stable, solid, shared world of waking life. But it's the same underlying machinery in both cases. Waking perception and dreaming are not opposite kinds of thing. They're the same world-building process, run with the correction turned up or turned down. And the science goes further into the self itself. Just as the brain builds a model of the world, it builds a model of you, a representation of the body, of your perspective, of the one who seems to be sitting behind the eyes doing the perceiving. The sense of being a self, located here, looking out, is, on this account, also part of the construction. Also a model the brain generates, which fits, eerily well, with those unreality moments where the self comes loose, where you look at your own hand or your own face and it briefly stops feeling like you. Those may be moments when the self-model, like the world model, flickers, when the construction of me becomes briefly visible as a construction, the same way the construction of the world does. So science gives us a remarkably complete and coherent picture. The world you experience is a model. The self that experiences it is a model. Both are built by the brain continuously out of prediction and correction. The feeling of reality is a feature the brain adds when the models are running smoothly and matching the data. And the strange moments, unreality, the loosened self, the dissolving word, are what it feels like when the construction process, normally seamless and hidden, briefly shows itself. It's a genuinely beautiful explanation. It accounts for an enormous amount. As far as it goes, I think it's largely right. But here is the cliff edge. Here is the thing. All of that explanation, for all its power, does not touch. It explains how the model is built. It does not explain why there is anyone experiencing the model. Think about it carefully. Everything science has told us, the prediction, the construction, the models of world and self, all of it describes processing. Information being handled, representations being built, signals being compared and updated. In principle, all of that could happen in the dark. A machine could do all of it. Build a model of the world, build a model of itself, predict and correct, with no inner experience at all. No one home, nothing it is like to be that machine. The processing does not require a witness, and yet, in your case, there is one. There is something it is like to be you. The model isn't just being built, it's being experienced. The world isn't just being rendered, it's appearing to someone. Why? Why is any of this accompanied by an inner life? Why are the lights on? That question, why there is experience at all rather than just processing in the dark, is the one thing the science doesn't answer, and arguably can't, at least not yet, and possibly not ever in its current form. It's so resistant to explanation that philosophers have given it a name to mark how different it is from every other question about the mind. They call it the hard problem. All the other problems, how perception works, how memory forms, how the brain models the world, are in principle solvable. We can see what an answer would look like, but this one is different in kind. You could explain every mechanism, every prediction, every model completely, and the question would still be standing there, untouched. But why is it experienced? Why is there someone home to whom all of it appears? And do you feel how this lands us right back where we started, in the unreality moment, but now seeing what was underneath it all along? That flicker of strangeness on an ordinary day, that sudden astonishment at existing, it was a brush against exactly this, against the hard problem, felt rather than thought. In that moment, you weren't confused about the world. You were, for a second, seeing the genuinely unexplained thing at the center of your existence, that there is experience at all, that there's a you and a world appearing to it, and that nobody, not the deepest science we have, can yet say why. The strangeness you felt was accurate. You were feeling the edge of the deepest mystery there is. Have you noticed what's happened over the course of tonight? We started with a small, passing, slightly odd experience. The moment reality feels a little unreal. And the more closely we've examined it, the stranger everything has become. Not less strange, stranger. We pulled on the thread expecting it to unravel into a tidy explanation, and instead it has opened into one mystery after another, each one deeper than the last. That, I've come to think, is itself one of the most important things to notice. Reality does not get more ordinary the more closely you look at it. It gets stranger. The unreality moment was the first crack. Behind it, the fact that you never touch the world directly, only a rendering. Behind that, the fact that the rendering is a prediction, a controlled hallucination. Behind that, the fact that dreams prove the feeling of reality can be manufactured wholesale. Behind that, the single mysterious point of view through which your entire existence has arrived. And behind all of it, at the very bottom, the bare, unexplained, possibly unexplainable fact that there is any experience at all. The ordinary world we walk around in, the one that feels so obvious, so solid, so unremarkable that we never give it a second thought, turns out to be sitting on top of the deepest mysteries there are. Every ordinary moment is built out of them. The realness you feel right now is a construction nobody fully understands, appearing to a witness nobody can explain, through a perspective you can never get outside of, in a world you can never touch directly. That's not the spooky exception. That's the ordinary situation. That's every second of your life. You've just been built, sensibly, to not notice, because noticing doesn't help you get through the day, and the day is what evolution cared about. And this is why I've come to feel that the unreality moments are a kind of gift, even though they can be unsettling. Because they're the moments the noticing breaks through anyway. The moments when the machinery that keeps the world feeling ordinary briefly fails, and you see, accurately, truly, how astonishing and strange and unexplained your situation actually is. Most of us spend almost our whole lives with the strangeness safely hidden, getting on with things. And every so often, for no reason, the veil thins and you feel the real texture of existence for a second. Not a malfunction, a moment of accuracy. And there's a reason the strangeness stays hidden almost all the time, and it's worth understanding because it isn't an accident. A creature that walked around perpetually astonished at the bare fact of its own existence would not last long. It would forget to eat, fail to notice the predator, lose track of the 1,000 practical things a body has to do to stay alive. Evolution had no use for wonder. It had use for function. And so we're built to let the world go transparent, to look through it, at what we need, rather than at the staggering fact of it. The realness tag, the ordinariness, the way the miracle of perception hides itself behind the things perceived, all of that is a kind of merciful blindness installed because seeing clearly all the time would be paralyzing. We are designed not to notice the water we swim in, and mostly we don't. Which means the unreality moments are something rare and almost precious, brief lapses in a blindness we didn't even know we had. For a second, the transparency fails, and instead of looking through the world, you find yourself looking at it, at the sheer impossible fact of it, and of you, and of the two meeting. People who meditate for years sometimes describe deliberately cultivating something like this, a capacity to see the constructed, astonishing nature of ordinary experience on purpose, rather than waiting for it to ambush them. And the ones who get there don't describe it as unsettling. They describe it as a kind of homecoming, as if the strangeness, looked at long enough and gently enough, turns back into wonder, and the wonder turns out to have been the truth underneath the ordinariness the whole time. I'm not suggesting you try to live there permanently. I don't think we're built to, and the practical blindness has its mercy. But I do think there's something valuable in knowing the strangeness is always available, just under the surface of any ordinary moment. That you're never more than one thinning of the veil away from the most astonishing fact there is. It changes how you hold the unreality moments when they come. They stop being glitches to be waited out and become something closer to invitations. Brief openings, a chance to look for a second at the thing you spend your whole life looking through. Let me bring back the two experiences we've been circling all night, because now they look different. The first, the ordinary day that suddenly feels strange. We can see now what that strangeness was. It was the feeling of reality flickering, the rendering becoming briefly visible, the deepest mystery brushing against you. And the second, the single point of view through which your whole life has arrived. We can see now what that is too. It's the witness, the experiencer, the bare someone home that science can describe everything around but cannot explain into existence. Two ordinary, familiar, almost dismissible experiences, and underneath each one, the largest question there is. I want to be careful, here near the end, the way I've tried to be all along. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is because I don't know, and nobody does, and the ones who claim to gently don't quite believe them. I'm not going to tell you reality is an illusion. I don't think it is. An illusion is the wrong word for something this consistent and shared and solid. I'm not going to tell you it's a simulation, or that your mind creates the universe, or any of the things that get sold with great confidence in this territory. The honest position is smaller and stranger, that the world is real, and that your experience of it is a construction, and that the bare fact of there being any experience at all is genuinely unexplained, and that all three of those things are true at once and sit together, unresolved, at the center of every ordinary day. And I find that I don't want it resolved exactly, because a fully explained reality with the mystery drained out would be a smaller place to live than this one. This, the open, strange, unexplained world, where an ordinary Tuesday is sitting on top of the deepest questions there are, and where every so often you get to feel it. This is a more astonishing place to be alive than any tidy answer would leave us. The strangeness isn't a problem to be solved. It might be the most truthful thing we ever feel. So let me offer not an answer, but a reframe, a different way to hold the whole thing that I've found quietly changes how the ordinary world feels. We've been asking all night why reality sometimes feels unreal, and I think, having come all this way, the question gently turns inside out. Because maybe the strangeness we feel in those moments isn't really about reality at all. Maybe reality is just sitting there, being what it is as it always has been. Maybe what surprises us in those moments isn't the world. Maybe what surprises us is consciousness encountering the world, noticing for a second that it's encountering anything at all. Think about it this way: the strangeness was never out there in the room. The room didn't change. The strangeness was in the meeting, in the astonishing, unexplained fact of an awareness meeting a world, an inside meeting an outside, a someone finding themselves in the middle of a something. That meeting is happening constantly, every waking second, and it is genuinely the strangest thing in existence. And the unreality moment is simply the rare time you notice the meeting itself, rather than just the world it delivers. And once you see it that way, the strangeness stops being something to be wary of and becomes something closer to wonder. Because the thing you're brushing against in those flickers isn't a flaw in your perception or a crack in the world. It's the central miracle of your entire existence, that there is an inside to the universe, a place where it all gets witnessed, and that the place is you. The universe, for almost all of its vast history, and across almost all of its vast extent, is dark and unwitnessed. No one home, nothing it is like to be any of it. And then here, in you, improbably, there's a window, a place where it wakes up and sees itself. The unreality moment is that window briefly noticing it's a window. That's why reality feels stranger the more you examine it. Not because reality is defective, but because examining it eventually brings you face to face with the fact that you're examining it, that there's an examiner, a witness, an experiencer at the center of it all, and that this is the one thing that should astonish us most, and that we've grown most blind to. Reality feels strange because existence is strange. Because the bare fact of any of this being experienced by anyone is the strangest fact there could be. And you are that fact. You're not observing the mystery from outside. You're made of it. You're the place it's happening. So let me bring us back down, gently, to where we started, to the ordinary. An ordinary day, an ordinary room, yours, the one you know by heart, an ordinary moment, nothing happening, nothing wrong. The light is whatever it is. You're just here, being a person, going about your evening. And then, maybe tonight, maybe some random afternoon next month, it happens again. The small flicker, the room tilts half an inch into strangeness. Your own existence brushes against you. The quiet, vertiginous astonishment.